Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
Dr. Pym, I actually heard what happened to you. You opened up the quantum realm. That's when this crazy creepy ghost who walks through walls and stuff. Stole your tech. And now she wants to take over the world or whatever. Who would have believed that in your hour of need, you would turn to us?
Ant-Man and the Wasp teaming up.
Follow my lead.
Hello. This is Adolf Vega from 3D or 2D.com, and today I'm reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp. As always, I'll talk about the 3D element first. So, the first way to describe the 3D is that it's mostly depth-based. The depth 3D is the main star of the show, and it works well for this style of movie. The depth gives the viewer a greater sense of scale, which is really important because main characters can shrink or become giant, and it's good to have that sense of scale. Pop-out 3D is rarely used, which is fine. I kind of wanted, here and there might be some things that pop out, but for the most part, not much there. One car chase scene toward the end of the movie looked especially strong in 3D. This is the scene that you'll see in the trailers. Other 3D things that I want to mention is that whenever they go into the CGI quantum realm, it looks really nice. All that CG, and it's a really weird, trippy kind of place. So it's cool to see that in 3D. The 3D is always present, but it's not always apparent. So, it's there, but it's not in your face. It's not made a big focus into this movie. One interesting use of the 3D is with the character of the Wasp, as she's flying around in her miniature state. She actually appears to be in a different plane of 3D layer. So, the Wasp character would be, maybe recessed 2 layers back, and the rest of the action might be 4 layers back. 3 or 4 layers. So she looks more apparent. It's easier to spot her when she's flying around, buzzing around, than it would be if it was in 2D. It's a nice little subtle thing. And I think if you watch the movie in 2D, she may get blended in with that background because they're all one thing instead of multiple layers. I imagine most people may not even notice it, but I did, and it's really nice. The 3D doesn't wow the audience, but it's a nice visual enhancement, and I can recommend it. So the final verdict is good 3D.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by 3D Wiggle. With 3D Wiggle software, you can impress your family and friends with 3D gifts and videos. To find out more information, please click on the link in the description for 20% off coupon as well. This podcast is also brought to you by Patreon. With Patreon, you can become a patron and get this podcast commercial free and get many more benefits. Please click on the description again to get more information. Now, back to the show.
Now, onto the movie itself. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a direct sequel to the 2015 Ant-Man movie, but in many ways, this movie feels like a semi-sequel to Captain America Civil War. For anyone wondering, this movie takes place shortly before the events of Avengers Infinity War, but is definitely self-contained. Scott Lang, or the Ant-Man, is in a house arrest after being caught fighting with the Avengers. Dr. Hank Pym needs the assistance of Scott Lang in getting a specialized quantum part to help him on a personal mission into the quantum realm. A villain named Ghost wants the quantum part for herself and tries to intercept it from Dr. Pym and Ant-Man and the Wasp. The movie has a secondary villain, which is a gangster that wants to use Hank Pym's advanced technology for his shady purposes. Another antagonist is the FBI, who keeps track of Scott Lang and wants to make sure that he stays home because he's on house arrest. The movie has a lot of things happening at the same time. Easily the best aspect of the movie is the comedic element. I haven't laughed this hard in years, or this consistently. It's the funniest movie of 2018. I'm sorry, it is. I laughed almost to tears, and laughed more than Deadpool 2. This is the funniest movie I've seen. And, the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies are funny. The original movie was funny. The original Ant-Man movie. This is the funniest. The jokes, comedic elements feel natural because of the excellent dialogue, writing, and excellent character moments. The comedic aspect is interwoven brilliantly into its action scenes. Speaking of which, the action scenes are really well executed and clever. The movie really fully utilizes the micro elements to make characters and feel big and small, and it really fleshes out the characters and the scenario. I really enjoyed how funny it was, and it really feels natural for this movie. It feels like the how do the action scenes, they do it in a comedic way, and the actors behind it are just kind of playing along with it. So it just kind of complements one another. Sadly, the plot is the weakest element of this movie. The movie juggles too many story aspects and sadly drops the ball on many key plot points. The idea behind the ghost villain is intriguing, but the execution of the character is fairly generic and underwhelming. Secondary villain is poorly acted and is mostly frivolous. The FBI element is somewhat fun, a game of cat and mouse. Will they or won't they catch Scott Lang this time? But the thing is, it's kind of cute at first, but they overdo it. The movie is just overstuffed with too many characters and unnecessary subplots, and things are not developed well, and it's just not needed. Just keep it more simple. I did enjoy it overall. The flaws are there. It's not perfect, but it's a lot of fun. I laughed really hard. I just had a blast watching it, and the comedy and action are great. So it's kind of hard to review this movie because I want to give it a higher score, but this plot kind of falls apart, and it's just too much for it to bear. And it just is. The story itself is subpar, but the comedy and action are great. So it kind of averages out to be a final verdict of a 7 out of 10. So that's going to be it for my review.
All right, before this podcast ends, I want to give a thank you to my patrons. Right now, we have one patron, which is David from Spain, and I want to thank you for your financial support to help making this possible. If you want your name to be called out and your location, please become a patron on Patreon. Our link should be in the description, or just look for us, 3D or 2D, on Patreon, and you get plenty of benefits. So again, thank you, David from Spain, and I hope to have many more Patreon patrons with us soon. Thanks again, David. All right, so that's going to be it for this podcast.
We now have a Patreon, and the link is in the description. Thanks for watching.
And we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a little bit everywhere. Just look for us, 3D or 2D. And of course, review us on iTunes. And if you want to write us a letter, our email address is email3dortwo d@gmail.com. So that's going to be it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. Hey, bye.
Bye, everyone.